The lost civilization and ancient mysteries. Secrets buried in them. Beneath the veil of time, the world stretched vast and unknowable, its landscapes etched with the footprints of those who had come before, whose names had faded into whispers carried by wind and sand. Somewhere in the deserts of Mesopotamia, the first stirrings of cities rose like mirages from the dust, their mud-brick walls glinting under the relentless sun. Farmers tilled the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates, unaware that their labor would be remembered not in memory but in the skeletal remains of ziggurats and clay tablets etched with the earliest forms of writing. The air was thick with the scent of baking clay and river silt, mingling with the incense that priests burned to call the favor of gods who walked unseen but ever present. And yet, amid this nascent civilization, the shadows of empires yet to come loomed. Trade routes, rival kings, and the hidden codes of astronomy, hinting at knowledge that humans had only begun to scratch the surface of. Far to the east, in the valleys that would one day cradle the Indus River, another civilization thrived with a quiet sophistication. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa rose in a precise geometry that seemed almost impossible for a people without monumental stone tools. Streets aligned with an order that mirrored the cosmos, and baths glistened under the sun, reflecting a mastery of water that whispered of secrets lost to time. Artisans shaped beads, seals, and pottery with an elegance that transcended utility, hinting at a culture steeped in ritual and social order. No grand monuments pierced the sky, no kings were inscribed in stone, yet every brick, every well-laid path, spoke of a people who understood the balance between life and its ephemeral nature. And then, as suddenly as they had emerged, they vanished, leaving behind only a meticulous grid, shards of pottery, and the haunting question: where had they gone? Across the sands of Egypt, along the great river that would cradle pharaohs for millennia, pyramids rose like eternal mountains. The air shimmered with heat and dust as laborers dragged massive stones across the desert, their chants harmonizing with the rhythm of work. Pharaohs were both men and gods, their faces immortalized in statues and tombs, their lives guided by an obsession with eternity. Hieroglyphs, each symbol a bridge between the mortal and the divine, told stories of triumph, betrayal, and celestial alignment. Beneath the weight of stone, secrets slumbered. Hidden chambers, unrecorded rituals, and the meticulous preservation of a civilization's soul. The Nile flowed steadily, oblivious to the rise and fall of kings, the plagues and wars, the whispers of tomb robbers, and the silent hands of time that would one day expose the forgotten corridors of power and belief. Across continents and oceans, the jungles of Mesoamerica concealed civilizations of remarkable ingenuity. The Maya sculpted their cities from limestone, carving stele that told of dynasties, battles, and astronomical phenomena with precision that would later confound modern scholars. In the dense forests, temples rose, shrouded by vines, their pyramids pointing skyward as if to pierce the veil between earth and the heavens. Astronomy and mathematics intertwined in the daily rhythm of life, the cycles of the sun and moon dictating ritual and governance. And yet, the forests claimed them. The cities, abandoned, were slowly consumed by foliage, leaving only silent stone faces and glyphs whose meanings teetered on the edge of understanding. The echoes of human ingenuity persisted, whispering of knowledge that teetered between science and divine revelation. In the Americas, the Olmec left colossal heads carved from basalt, their gaze both commanding and inscrutable, hinting at rulers whose faces had become eternal, yet whose names were forever lost. Their art, their rituals, their complex society vanished, leaving behind fragments that teased the imagination. Across the Pacific, the island of Rapa Nui stood isolated, its giant moai statues staring out to sea, the reason for their construction buried in mystery. How had these enormous stones been moved across the island without modern tools? What spiritual imperative drove an entire people to leave their mark in silence, their society later crumbling, succumbing to environmental collapse and the inexorable force of time? In the Aegean, the Minoans thrived on Crete, their palaces adorned with vibrant frescoes of dolphins, bulls, and ceremonial dances. Trade routes wove through the Mediterranean, linking them to Egypt, the Levant, and beyond, spreading ideas, art, and wealth. Yet, beneath the beauty of Knossos, legends of labyrinths and minotaurs lingered, suggesting that the Minoans' understanding of ritual, politics, and power had a darker undercurrent. Earthquakes and tidal waves, perhaps volcanic fury from Santorini, swallowed their cities and scattered their people, leaving echoes of grandeur embedded in myths that would shape Greek imagination for centuries. Beyond the familiar continents, whispers of Atlantis permeated philosophy and legend. Plato's dialogues painted a vision of a society so advanced that its achievements rivaled any known civilization, yet whose hubris brought its swift and utter destruction beneath the waves. Scholars debated whether it was metaphor or memory, a cautionary tale or the record of an actual cataclysm. The imagery persisted in minds across time. A city of unimaginable beauty, canals and temples aligned with cosmic order, treasures lost to the sea, and a people whose wisdom was swallowed by the ocean's depths. The notion of a civilization that had vanished overnight haunted explorers, historians, and dreamers alike, fueling the imagination of those who walked among ruins, searching for echoes beneath the waves. Across the vast reaches of the ancient world, trade, migration, and conquest wove threads between these civilizations. Artifacts, once treasured, were scattered across continents, their purposes forgotten, their origins obscured. Some whispered of astronomical knowledge, others of advanced engineering, of understanding that modern humans would marvel at yet could not replicate. Stone circles in Britain, the Nazca lines in Peru, the pyramids in Giza, and the underwater ruins off the coast of Japan hinted at a web of interconnected human endeavor, a shared pursuit of meaning, power, and legacy. Were these societies merely isolated bursts of brilliance, or did they inherit knowledge from older, now-forgotten ancestors whose shadows had left their imprint on the world? The deserts of Arabia and Africa carried their own enigmas. The lost city of Ubar, swallowed by shifting sands. The mysterious structures of Nabta Playa, whose stone circles aligned with stars long before the pyramids rose. The great Zimbabwe ruins, silent yet monumental, a testament to a society whose wealth, influence, and ingenuity defied simplistic historical record. Across the Indian subcontinent, the Harappans left inscriptions on seals whose language modern scholars still cannot decode fully, their streets bearing testimony to meticulous urban planning that rivaled any contemporaneous civilization. Somewhere beneath the waterlogged plains, remnants of lost trade ports and settlements hinted at lives obliterated by shifting rivers and rising seas. The forests of Cambodia held Angkor Wat, a civilization layered in complexity, faith, and ambition. Yet centuries earlier and far more mysterious structures like Göbekli Tepe challenged linear history, suggesting humans had spiritual and architectural sophistication long before kings and empires. Temples predated agriculture, carving sacred narratives into stone pillars that towered above ritual spaces, hinting at a purpose and worldview we can only partially understand. The ancients seemed driven by a desire to bridge earth and cosmos, flesh and stone, life and eternity. Every monument, every tool, every ruin was a riddle left for the future. A message etched in endurance, inviting inquiry yet keeping its full meaning shrouded. Through mountains, rivers, and oceans, humanity's forgotten cities whispered the same eternal questions. Who were we before memory betrayed us? What knowledge did we hold, and why did it vanish? Were these civilizations doomed by environmental collapse, human ambition, or some cosmic decree? As modern explorers and archaeologists sifted through ruins, uncovered burial sites, and deciphered glyphs, they glimpsed the outlines of intelligence, creativity, and spiritual depth that transcended eras. They found artifacts that spoke of trade networks spanning continents, calendars tuned to celestial movements, and technologies lost, only to be reinvented thousands of years later. Every discovery deepened the awe and intensified the mystery. The world itself seemed complicit in this grand concealment. Rivers shifted course, earthquakes swallowed cities, deserts rose where fertile plains had thrived. Entire cultures disappeared beneath volcanic ash, eroded by wind, or dissolved into myth. Yet their traces persisted, a fragment of pottery here, a carved stone there, a story remembered in legend, a ritual echoed in later faiths. Time became both thief and preserver, erasing names while preserving impact, allowing modern observers to stumble across a mosaic of human ingenuity and ambition whose pieces never fully aligned. And in those ruins, one could almost hear the pulse of life. The laughter of children in Indus streets, the chants of priests on Egyptian terraces, the solemn footsteps of Olmec rulers, the roar of marketplaces in Mesopotamian valleys, the whispering wind across Minoan frescoed halls. Across the millennia, these civilizations spoke without words, leaving hints of triumph, warnings of hubris, and reminders of impermanence. They taught that human achievement could soar beyond imagination, yet remain fragile, vulnerable to time, nature, and the choices of its own creators. Even as modern humanity walked among these remnants, piecing together stories from shards and bones, the mysteries refused to yield fully. The deeper one probed, the more questions arose. Why had some knowledge been lost, while other understanding survived? How had societies thousands of years apart reached similar architectural and astronomical sophistication? Was there an underlying current, a shared memory or inherited wisdom, connecting civilizations across oceans and eras? Each excavation, each discovery, was both revelation and provocation, teasing the limits of understanding and the capacity for wonder. In deserts, jungles, mountains, and beneath oceans, time's relentless hand had both destroyed and preserved. Stones, once mere tools, had become storytellers. Ruins had become books written in stone, clay, and earth, their pages worn by wind and rain. Travelers and scholars stood at their edges, feeling the echo of countless lives, imagining the faces of those who built, worshipped, labored, and dreamed. The air itself seemed to vibrate with memory, of cities rising, of rivers flooding, of civilizations collapsing, and of mysteries whispered across centuries. And so the lost civilizations continued to exist, not as they once had in life, but as enduring enigmas, inviting the living to trace their footprints, to listen to their silent stories, and to marvel at the ephemeral nature of human endeavor. Each ruin, each artifact, each forgotten city became a bridge, a fragile, luminous connection between the present and the profound depths of the past. They reminded us that the world was far older and far stranger than we imagined, that history was not a straight line, but a web of brilliance, folly, and unanswered questions stretching endlessly into time. The mysteries of lost civilizations endure, not merely as echoes of the past, but as eternal provocations, urging humanity to seek, to wonder, and to remember that even in loss, there is a story that refuses to be forgotten. Beyond the known world, in the shadowed reaches of Central Asia, the Scythians rode across endless steppes, their horses galloping with a rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the land itself. Gold-studded tombs hidden beneath mounds of earth hinted at a culture as fierce as it was intricate, leaving behind treasures and artifacts that spoke of rituals, battles, and beliefs almost forgotten. Each burial mound was both a monument and a warning, preserving the essence of a people who thrived where wind and snow shaped destiny as much as any human ambition. In their absence, only whispers remained, the wind carrying the memory of warriors who had vanished into time, leaving gold, bones, and stories buried beneath endless grasslands. Farther north, in the icy reaches of Siberia, remnants of ancient nomadic tribes surfaced in frozen tombs and tools perfectly preserved in permafrost. Shamanic carvings, ritual masks, and intricately woven textiles revealed spiritual worlds that intersected with nature and the cosmos. Life had been harsh, yet these people had found beauty in the cold, ritual in the silence, and meaning in the stars above. These frozen treasures spoke of civilizations whose environment dictated not just survival, but the very contours of belief, art, and leadership, leaving lessons on adaptation and resilience that modern eyes could barely fathom. In South America, beyond the Maya, the civilizations of the Andes sculpted mountains into living cities. Machu Picchu rose like a phantom from the mist, its terraces hugging cliffs as if carved by divine hands. The Inca understood astronomy, engineering, and agriculture in ways that seemed impossibly precise, their knowledge of stonework, irrigation, and road systems demonstrating a sophistication that belied the harshness of their environment. Llamas grazed peacefully in the highlands as the city's plazas echoed with rituals and commerce long vanished. Yet the energy of human ambition and spiritual connection lingered in every step along the stone paths, in every echo of the wind through the ruins. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, Polynesian navigators traced the stars to colonize islands that defied human imagination. They read the ocean's currents and skies as one reads a book, charting paths over thousands of miles with no instruments but skill, memory, and intuition. Each island settlement became a node in a web of exploration, a testament to human courage, knowledge, and the insatiable urge to reach beyond the known horizon. On Easter Island, the Moai continued to stare outward, guardians of a culture whose story was both brilliant and tragic, a warning about ecological limits and human impact that reverberated across centuries. In the shadow of Africa's Sahara, the Garamantes built oases and underground channels, cities thriving amidst desolation. Yet few knew of them until modern excavation revealed their ingenuity. Water systems carved from stone and sand spoke of survival against impossible odds, of organization, and of civilizations that left minimal traces yet achieved maximal impact. Alongside them, the Nubians rose and fell, their pyramids smaller but no less profound than those of Egypt, testaments to cultures that were entwined in trade, conquest, and shared artistry across centuries, often overlooked yet integral to the tapestry of human history. The Mediterranean bore witness to the Phoenicians, master traders whose ships traced coasts and islands, spreading language, ideas, and commerce across the ancient world. Their alphabet, a simple yet powerful tool, would become the foundation for countless scripts, a silent legacy that survived empires and upheavals. Carthage rose and fell, its destruction echoing through history as both tragedy and lesson. A civilization whose brilliance and hubris intertwined, leaving ruins that silently recounted strategies, commerce, and cultural prowess that modern historians pieced together with awe. From Asia's heartlands, the Tang dynasty flourished, its cities a riot of color, trade, and culture. Yet even within this grand civilization, whispers of vanished neighbors and forgotten kingdoms lingered. The Silk Road traced the paths of ideas and goods, connecting civilizations that might never have met otherwise, spreading knowledge, religions, and technology. Empires rose and crumbled, leaving only artifacts, written records, and architectural marvels as evidence of human ambition and the relentless pursuit of permanence against the inevitable tide of change. Across the oceans, civilizations like the ancestral Puebloans carved cliff dwellings into the canyon walls of what would become the American Southwest. Their architecture spoke of ingenuity, community, and a deep harmony with the land. Yet as drought and societal stress mounted, they abandoned these marvels, leaving cities to be reclaimed by wind and stone. Their story was one of resilience, adaptation, and ultimate impermanence, echoing the same lessons whispered by civilizations in Africa, Asia, and the Americas alike. Even the Arctic and subarctic held secrets. Sakak, Dorset, and Thule cultures left traces of human ingenuity in ice and tundra, tools fashioned from bone, ivory, and stone telling tales of survival in landscapes that modern humans could scarcely imagine inhabiting. These peoples, often overlooked in the grand narrative, had mastered life in extremes, their legacies subtle yet profound, reminding us that human creativity is not bounded by climate, continent, or scale. And so the world stretched, a mosaic of brilliance and collapse, each civilization a node in the vast web of human endeavor. As explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers sifted through ruins, deciphered glyphs, and uncovered artifacts, they began to see patterns of trade, migration, knowledge transmission, and ritual practice that hinted at a shared tapestry across time and space. Some mysteries remained impenetrable. The precise construction of pyramids, the meaning of Nazca lines, the methods by which islands were colonized without modern navigation, or the spiritual significance of Göbekli Tepe's pillars. Yet each clue, each fragment, each stone invited awe, reflection, and humility. And still, through wind-swept deserts, forested jungles, snow-laden plains, and ocean-swept islands, the pulse of ancient life persisted. In the echo of footsteps on forgotten streets, in the shimmer of sunlight on carved stones, in the subtle alignment of temples with stars, humanity could feel the whisper of those who had come before. The past was alive in its absence, vibrant in memory and mystery, a testament to the heights of ambition, ingenuity, and imagination, and to the fragility of all human achievement. In these ruins, one could glimpse the eternal truth, that civilizations rise and fall, yet their stories, their lessons, and their enigmas endure, challenging each generation to wonder, to seek, and to remember that even in loss, history's heartbeat remains unbroken.